Jovan, Jovan Pulitzer. I am an inventor and pattern recognition expert. I'm also part of the Gold Institute of International Strategy out of Washington, D.C. So to understand what I'm going to talk about today, even though I'm a technology guy, my goal is to make it really simple, really obvious. I'm not going to be talking about codes on machines, how things are swapped, server overseas. I'm just going to show you the simple basis of what possibly went on, but most importantly, how this is fixed, how it's detected, fixed, and will never happen again. And that basically is based on my technology background for over the last 30 years. Just so you have a little basis in it, the fact that your phone now can scan a barcode in any grocery store or any kind of code, or in fact you hear Q codes here today, any type of machine readable code as it talks to the internet, that's my technology. It's a basis of my patent portfolio of about 200 patents on that particular one. My patents are so prolific in licensing that every manufacturer in the world basically licenses my patents to use on any mobile device except one, Huawei out of China. They don't license it, they just use it. And I'm on approximately about 12 billion devices globally. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, keeping it simple. What could have happened here? How can it be detected and confirmed? And then how can this whole be plugged from now on? So if we'll go on the next slide, if you just roll up for me, I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about when I talk about kinematic artifacts. Kinematic is just a nerdy word for evidence on paper. When two physical forces come together, right, and a paper's bent, there's always going to be an example of that. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. That's the fold that's left over. You take a brand new dollar bill and you fold it, that fold will always be there. Go to a coin machine and a snack machine, trying to get a snack out of it and put in your dollar bill and it kicks it back. It's the machine saying something's not right about this dollar. It's broken, it's messed up, the color's not right. We have all experienced this before. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. If we'll move on to the next PDF, please. I'm going to show you how my process of our team, what we're going to do, and if we can enlarge that, that'd be great, is we can detect what I'm calling the counterfeit. There is nothing new that I'm going to be sharing with you today. This is how counterfeit bills are detected. This is how counterfeit art is detected. This has already been adjudicated. It's not new science. It's just never been applied to these very important things in our process.
If you were able to get your hands on the State Farm Arena absentee on the ballots that were run between 10:30 and 1:30 in the morning, would you be able to tell if they were folded, and would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit?
We would be able to tell if they were folded, if they were counterfeit, whether they were filled out by a human hand, whether they were printed by a machine, whether they were batch fed continually over and over. We can detect every bit of that.
Thank you.
Certainly. It stands to reason that in an election that comes down to the propensity of a tremendous amount of mail-in ballots, that a very simple process occurred. That piece of paper should have been folded and sent to you at home. A printer prints it out. That printer folds it. It goes into an envelope. It's tracked in the process. United States Post Office sends it out. That is tracked. It comes to your home. You receive it. You open it up. Chances are you didn't vote right then. You kind of put it off a little bit. You opened it 2 or 3 times. You finally got around to it. You put your pen to it. Folded it back, put it in an envelope, and sent it back. That entire process is a folding and rolling process. Every time that piece of paper is opened and refolded, it's like a hinge. Remember, paper is nothing but a reconstituted tree. So it's constantly breaking fibers. It is actually changing that piece of paper into something else that it can never be hidden once it's done. This is what's called a kinematic artifact. So what you're looking at on the screen is just a simple fold. Looking at it through a computer, the things the human eyes can't see. But if you look at this, you can see even the paper on the front side of the fold to the back side of the fold changes frequency. It becomes a whole different level of light frequency. If you look at the bottom, on the left, you're looking at an oval filled out by a machine. The two on the right are by human hands. The first one, that's somebody who fills in a circular motion. Handwriting is the opposite of a rocket. Rockets take off, impact. Handwriting is impact, and then you're filling in that circle, and no matter how creative or non-creative you are, your mind goes, oh, I'm finished with that. But that finish process happens in your brain first, pen second. And so you always start to lighten the load. And so those little bitty light areas you're seeing is the load being lightened by the person's hands. The second one is actually a gel pen. If you look at the one on the left, that's done by a machine. A machine can never hide that it was a machine. Can't. Because the same process of printing the ballot is the same process of printing the vote. Is there another page in this slide? Let's look at these a little bit closer in it. So you're looking at 4 forms of human dynamic. First, we want to know where these things mailed. That's the definition of a mail-in ballot. Second, we're supposed to vote for them individually by person and hand. If you have a machine one in there, you didn't cast it by hand. You're looking at the 4 different types. Every pen has a signature. Every ink has a forensic signature. Every hand has a different stroke. You're looking at circular, scribbler, right? Inside out, gel, and Sharpie. Keep on going. Now look at the bottom in the machine. If you're looking at it, you can see the difference between the two. The handwritten one, the ink is over the paper. Look at the bottom one. That's a machine filling in an oval, and that's a machine filling in a scribble. But you can still see through it. You see all the little bitty dots? That's because the machine still prints the same exact way, just a little denser. It can always be detected. And unless the ballots all had original scribbles, that scribble can be detected. Every time that scribble shows up, we find it, we map it, and all of a sudden, if you have 50 of these scribbles, or even if you have 2, you technically have a problem. We'll go to the next part of the slide, next presentation, please. And so things I'm hearing about that concern me, and this is what concerned me when I looked into this. So I'm the guy that told the world that, hey, that little bitty barcode that means a product can talk to the internet. And so things started to be tracked that way. Everything you see sitting out here on the committee's table that has a barcode can now talk to the internet. That's what I'm responsible for, making the physical world talk to the internet world. What bothers me in this process is to continually hear there is no, when you get adjudication, there's no paper trail, or that's kind of wiped, or you can't tell what the predecessor was. That's disturbing. That's the first rule of forensic audits, and if it was an accountant in a corporation, you'd be fired. If you ran the financials for a public company and the numbers didn't match, and all of a sudden you couldn't adjudicate it and show the records, you'd go to prison. Now, this is as simple as scanning a loaf of bread at a grocery store. What's sad about this is we're not even performing at standards that we expect out of grocery stores. We're not even performing at standards that you would accept from your online purchase. When you fill that shopping cart, you expect that shopping cart to be exactly what you chose. And if you had a problem with Amazon because they shipped you 20 things you don't need but still charge you, you would be on the phone to Amazon complaining. They would have to audit it, figure it out, and make it right. But we don't do this in elections. We play hide and seek with documents. We don't turn documents over, which are the property of the taxpayer. Federal law states this has to be available for 22 months. For audit and inspection. That is a federal law, ratified many times over. But yet somebody can sit and say, no, we don't want to show you. You don't have access to it. That is an issue. All of these issues we can fix if we can get access to the artifact that the voter intended. And what is that? That's the physical ballot. I heard about testimony about Q codes. They wouldn't run in the machine. They had to do it over and over and still didn't run. What it was really telling you is I've seen this before. I've seen this before. I've seen this before, and they're using the code to adjudicate it out. It's a trick in systems commonly used. Let's take a look at some of these things. This is a Fulton County ballot. You can see the voting area of Fulton County on this one. We referred to it as O8L. It narrows down to Roswell, Georgia. This particular county, not according to my data, but according to public data, says 67.7% of the people voted Democrat. I'm just pointing this out so you understand. I use traditional coding, the blue for the Democrat side, the red for the Republican side. Let's take a look at the next ballot, please. This is a ballot for Buckhead, Georgia. This particular one says that 69.2% voted for the Republican Party, right? This one is what we call our R ballot. Will you roll back to the first one? Look at the top right corner of that ballot in the block that says Fulton County. Now go to the next ballot. Look at the top right corner right there that says Roswell or Buckhead. Why is there not a tracking code in that ballot? That's the code that makes it cross-checked to the signature. Why is it absent? There are a lot of these inconsistencies in these ballots, and they run along party lines. Next slide, please. You have a ballot from a Democrat propensity area on the left. You have a ballot from the same county on the right. Why is the code not there? Now let's go to the next one, please. We'll scroll it up. Okay, that code, basically that barcode that you see missing up there is what helps adjudicate it. And if you want to zoom it way up to the bottom there, that's how you verify and adjudicate and tabulate and correlate that code. So we've now established that, wow, that code's not there. Can we go to the next slide, please? I have questions about these targets. I have simple questions and forensics. Why is the ballot from one county on the left, why does it have a completely separate code in it than the one on the right? These are actually coded to where they come from. Why should you be able to look at a ballot and know whether it came from a Republican area or a Democratic area? This concerns me. I don't think you should be able to know. Can we look on to the next one, please? The things that concern me, the ballot on the left, again, I just color-coded them to make them easy. I'm not saying everybody that lives there is a Democrat, and I'm not saying everybody on the right living there is a Republican. I'm just calling your eyes. I use this as coding so you can see what I'm saying. However, what's really interesting to me is the ballot that goes to the Republican area is printed completely off register. You remember when I told you you feed $1 to the snack machine and it kicks it back? It's because that dollar's broken. It's off register. The machine says, I don't recognize this. I don't recognize this. What do you want me to do with it? Now, when it comes to a snack machine, it keeps on spitting the dollar bill out at you until you finally put in one it agrees with. At a PIN for your bank account to access your money, it's put in the right code. In the voting machines, it's saying, adjudicate me, what's going on here? Well, that's just also like a sighting device. You see how far that register is off? It makes the paper talk differently than what the machines trade to look at. Can we roll up a little, please? There's the sighting device. That is the item that tells the optical eye, technically, although in mechanical engineering speak, it's not a singular eye anymore, but we'll just use that as an example. That's telling the sighting device where to look. When it doesn't line up, the machine doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. If we're looking at the bullseye, the very thing that says, hey, look here. Well, the left one's saying, look in my yard, and the right one's saying, look 2 houses over. But you know what? The ovals never moved because they were printed hard. When you expect to take a picture and you hold it at somebody, you're not trying to photograph 2 people over. And this is what it tells the machine to do. This is a problem at the most lowest elementary level. And the number one way it's cloaked, well, we can't see it in the code. We don't know how it's done. Show me the code that does it. Well, that's the code. That's the code. If your machine is not calibrated to hit the target, it becomes something else. So if we talk about machines and we talk about code, it is a smoke and mirrors not to deal with what's real and physical. Here's my contention. This is the historical artifact of a voter. And states are telling voters, you have no right to that. The very voter that pays your salary, that paid for that ballot, that paid for that piece of paper, and paid for the machine that you're running it in. And so those people that pay your salary, that you work for and do this for, you're telling them you can't look at them. That is both unacceptable and un-American. What I'm saying is all of these problems you've heard today can be corrected and detected now by the simplest of things. It takes you days or weeks to recount votes. Give me these 500,000 ballots. We'll have them done in 2 hours. How can you complain? What is there to hide? We want to know if these ballots are authentic or counterfeit. We want to make sure every vote is verified. So our technology can answer every bit of these. If you want to roll up, I don't even know if there's any more. So let's look at this. Here's what I have a problem with, is simplest state. This is the county's statement on ballots. Went out on national TV. We had 113,130 votes at the time, and we had to adjudicate 106,000 of them. You know what that's really saying? Your machine didn't work. When the national average for the last elections, 2016, was what? 1.2%. That's an audited number. 1.2% of the total had to be adjudicated. And then you look at 2018, nationally, 2.7%. But yet your own election officials said we had to do this 93.6% of the time. Let me decode that for you. Mr. Mechanical Engineer, your machine doesn't work. Mr. Printer, your ballot's screwed up. And by the way, where everybody talks about batch scanning, which you have on video, people standing there feeding the ballots, doing the 3-card Monty, run them again. 1-card Monty, run them again. Let me tell you how that works, right? You don't go to the bank and deposit $1,000 and say, hand it back. Let me run the same $1,000 through, and now you got a $2,000 net deposit. And you don't say, hand that $1,000 back, let me run it again, and now I got a $3,000 net deposit. This is not even a beating of a drum. This is a burning of a city. This is a broadcasting to every person who voted in Georgia. Your vote doesn't matter because we're going to decide what you really meant.
If we were able to subpoena those ballots between 10:30 and 1 a.m., would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit or legitimate? And if you were, what probability would you be able to tell that? I mean, what would be the probability of your
This is
findings?
100%, and let me tell you why it's 100%. First off, this is a combination of computer vision. Computer visions are now how your car self-drives, and you trust that. It's how we look at everything on an assembly line, that those tolerances for that jet engine are perfect so that plane does not fall out of the sky. That's all computer vision. Machine learning is looking at these patterns and going, I've seen this. What does it mean? I've seen this. What does it mean? So every time you feed in a ballot, it keeps on learning. And then it uses artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence goes, wow, what do all these patterns tell us? That's it. And so on those ballots, you could take a section of every hour of the day and look at them, or you could take that spike. What could we tell? Was this the real ballot? Did you know there is a forensic difference between a ballot that was officially printed and something that ran on a high-speed press that should have never been on a duplicated press? This is why people are screaming to look at the physical ballot, because we will tell you instantly what came out of a mass copier versus what came out of a printer. Officially printed. We will tell you, did a human fill this out or did a machine fill it out? We will tell you, was it mailed or was it not mailed? And you will see what got run over and over and over and over again. That is the problem of why we must see the physical ballot as the holy grail. The second one is the digital scan. So yes, sir, all of that can be detected unbiased and exactly just what the forensic science says, the scientific method, not the opinion.
Thank you.
My experience, this has never been done for election machines before. This is exactly how counterfeit money is detected. The elections machines have always tried to hide the physical ballots so it can't be done. What I've spent the last 24 years in understanding how papers and machine and internet interact. I spent the last 6 years almost understanding the paper reading details at the nano level. I can tell you what paper came from China. I can tell you the person that handled it was a smoker. All of it is detectable with the physical ballot. So yes, 24 years doing this, the last 6 years doing it in the new field of science, looking at it at the nano level. We don't even have to look at color anymore. We look at waveforms and frequencies and lines and curves. But yes, sir, these are simple. These are simple. And in case you can't tell, I can get really technical and deep and geeky, but I try not to because this is simple. Simple.
Well, we're going to need to move on to thank you for
Yes.
your presentation.
Thank you.
I need